A new study on how to eradicate hunger, a battle over high-speed trains, a lack of consequence in a case of marital rape, plus a look at a new service that could revolutionize polling. I'm Martin Rather. This is The Underreported. This week, we're going to try something a little different to open our program. Two of our producers, Madison Smith and Victoria Macangiulola, are joining me now in the studio to talk about Pulse, a new service which could innovate the practice of polling. Full disclosure, I was tipped off to this by a friend of mine at another university, so I asked Madison and Victoria to look into it on their own in order to keep our editorial integrity. So, Madison, Victoria, tell us what you learned.
Thanks, Martin. As college students, we are constantly asked to fill out surveys. Our opinions are compared to one another, and the results of our responses may be used for different purposes.
That's right. 76% of Americans report having little or no trust in public opinion polls, much less do they understand how they work. College Pulse wants to change that.
Built entirely by college students, College Pulse is on a mission to provide a reliable source of student opinion on college campuses. We spoke to the CEO and co-founder of Pulse, Taryn Klein, who launched Pulse at Dartmouth College in 2016.
We asked him about the importance of polling and how his polling techniques differ from other polling websites.
That will impact, how much you drink, who you vote for. So we want to create a reliable source of collective opinion within communities.
With that information, we also wanted to know who is receiving these students' information and what College Pulse is doing with said information.
So one thing that we do, unfortunately no one reads terms and conditions, we say in our terms and conditions that we will not sell any personally identifiable data to any company ever. I feel really strongly about that, and I don't even think that I think that maybe in the long run it eliminates one potential way to monetize. But every decision we're making is about making sure that students feel like they can trust the platform, because that's how you get reliable data.
And we asked about the effectiveness of polling and how he believes it benefits college students.
People were having conversations on the platform about the issue, and you were able to see what views were representative and what weren't. And I think that is, in a nutshell, what's so powerful in the realm of social change. We are providing just a level of understanding that you really can't get anywhere else.
So, Victoria, how exactly does College Pulse work?
Right, so students can choose between several surveys, including activism or gun control, for instance, and after answering a few questions, students can compare their results to that of their peers. And also, students can earn Pulse points, which are exchangeable for free products such as bicycles, gift cards, or t-shirts, for instance.
Right, and Madison, let's talk about the effects of this service potentially beyond just college campuses or local communities.
Absolutely. I think with any polling service, it has a potential to go to a national setting and be used for things like political campaigns, so those candidates can see what people in their communities are thinking of their issues, for example.
Right. Well, I thank you both. And now to our national correspondents. 1 in 6 Americans suffer from hunger. A recent study explores the possibility of greatly reducing hunger in a way that may surprise you. Olivia Leveda has the story from California.
What if you could feed everyone in America and more just by going vegan? According to a study recently published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, 735 million Americans could be sustained on a healthy vegan diet. Researchers used data based on U.S. agriculture production and the various diets of Americans from the years 2000 to 2010 in terms of the amount of protein, calories, vitamins, fiber, and minerals. An animal-based diet can be nutritionally compared to a plant-based diet. The scientists compared the food waste of animal-based items to the food waste of plant-based alternatives. According to the study, producing a gram of protein from animal sources requires a lot more resources and emissions than producing a gram of protein from plant sources. For example, an area of land that would produce 100 grams of edible protein from plants can only produce 4 grams of edible protein from beef. Their results? Replacing all animal-based items in the U.S. diet with plant-based alternatives would add enough food to feed an additional 350 million people. Although plant-based diets would deliver more of most vitamins and minerals, the researchers do acknowledge the intake of a few micronutrients like vitamin B12 would decrease. From California, Olivia Leveda, The Underreported.
Some may have heard about the legendary high-speed maglev train in Japan. Cameron Kaufman of Yale University brings us a story of potential bid rigging in the battle to win contracts to expand the service.
In Japan, 4 of the country's largest construction companies are being charged with colluding on contracts on an $86 billion infrastructure project. The 4 firms, Obayashi, Taisei, Shimizu, and Kajima, are being charged with colluding on their bids for contracts on Japan's new magnetic levitation railway program. The Japanese Fair Trade Commission has alleged that the firms organized meetings in Tokyo restaurants where they sought to determine ways to obtain an equal and a large share of the contracts for the building of the new terminals for the maglev railway. In addition to facing legal problems with this, the firms have now been banned from submitting contract attempts to build the venues for Tokyo's 2020 Summer Olympics. Now, Japan's maglev railway system has received tremendous public scrutiny up until this point. Almost $90 billion, the Japanese government is seeking to build a new rail link between Tokyo and Nagoya, shortening the travel time from 100 minutes all the way down to 40 minutes. Authorities hope that the project will be done by 2027, and then they can eventually connect the rail to Osaka, Japan's 3rd largest city. It remains to be seen whether this construction controversy will cause a delay in maglev's finishing by 2027, but whatever the case, this is an important project to follow, as other governments around the world are seeking to invest in high-speed transportation infrastructure, such as the maglev and hyperloops, to better connect their major cities. Coming to you here from Brantford, Connecticut, I'm Cameron Kaufman, The Underreported.
April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and in India, a court dismissed a woman's petition against her husband in a case of marital rape. Michaela Johnson from Sam Houston State University in Huntsville, Texas, has more.
In Gujarat, India, on April 2nd, a doctor was found not guilty for the rape of his wife for simply that, she is his wife. There are no laws prohibiting marital rape if the victim is of legal age under the Indian Penal Code, and the government continues to deny a change in their system, saying that, quote, it could destabilize the institution of marriage. The wife petitioned the court, saying that her husband subjected her to not only mental but physical torture and forced her to perform other sexual acts. The Gujarat High Court, which heard the petition from the wife, dismissed marital rape charges, however, had him booked under sexual harassment and husband and relatives subjecting a woman to cruelty. The judge spoke out about his own personal beliefs on the matter, saying that the total statutory abolition of marital rape is the first necessary step in teaching societies that the dehumanized treatment of women will not be tolerated, and that marital rape is not the privilege of the husband, but rather a violent act and an injustice that must be criminalized. Although the judge has this view, the Indian Penal Code might be far off from the inclusion of marital rape due to the government's statements on how the country's other problems, such as literacy and poverty, must be considered before criminalizing marital rape. From Huntsville, Texas, I'm Michaela Johnson, The Underreported.
We now end by looking back and then looking forward. This week in 1971, the People's Republic of China invited the U.S. table tennis team to spend a week-long trip in the country in an attempt to use ping-pong diplomacy to ease diplomatic tensions with the U.S. Relations had cooled since China became communist in 1949, and then again with military clashes during the Korean War. Attitudes changed shortly thereafter, however, as a year later President Nixon made a visit to the country along with the Chinese table tennis team touring the United States. In this upcoming week, Arizona and Texas will be increasing their border patrol efforts with the addition of 150 National Guard agents posted along the Mexican border within the next week. These join the 250 agents already added by the state of Texas. These are meant to be the first set of the intended 4,000 on their way by September. The responsibilities of these agents are unclear, as at the moment they will not be agents of law enforcement or interact with the detained. And that's the Underreported for this week. If you have stories that you believe are underreported, please comment below, and we'll do our best to get back to you. For the Underreported, I'm Martin Rather. Have a great week.